thoughts on the term bend but don't break defense? And given what your group has been through with injuries and everything, is it fair to classify you guys as that?
I don't ever want to be considered that way. I think, we want to challenge and be aggressive. And, there's times of the game where we're up some points and maybe we're a little softer there and don't want to give up a quick score, but that's certainly not our mentality. We want to be aggressive and dictate to people. We don't look at it as, hey, let's just give up a bunch of yards and don't let them score. That's not how we operate.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Stephen.
Hey Lou, the tight ends, I think on both sides in this game are obviously going to factor pretty prominently.
Yeah.
They use a bunch of them over there. What can you maybe explain why that position for everybody, not you, but just why that position presents so many matchup problems and that you have to solve, I guess, going into the matchups like this.
Yeah, those guys are such big, skilled athletes these days, and they just seem to be more and more and more. And I think that the offensive coaches are using them in the right way. Very, very rarely these days do you see a linebacker matched up on a tight end anymore. There may be a
Mhm.
rare case where you got a guy that can do it, but you're gonna have to deploy whether it be a corner or safety um, in some matchups to try to guard these guys, and then. Pittsburgh in particular, they've got four of them. So, where they've got in their mind some matchup issues, and clearly they've demonstrated that they can be in a lot of different ways. You flex out number 80 down there in the goal line, and it's either a completion or a penalty, and that's and they know that. So, we got to do a good job of trying to figure that part out. But they do a great job. Arthur does a great job of employing those guys. At the right time in the right place, and they do a heck of a job.
You mentioned something there that struck a chord, that you don't see linebackers covering them anymore. And I remember when I first started doing this, that was kind of standard. Um, just how much has that evolved over the years? You remember those? Is that a fair statement? I guess that
Yeah, no,
linebackers.
absolutely. I mean, it used to be that way, and I think just nowadays that they're just too good and too
Mhm.
athletic, and we've used different body types on those guys throughout the last few years, and I think you have to in order to get a good matchup that you feel good about. You've got to get a guy that or guys to run, and be in position to make plays when they throw the ball, and also stout enough in the run game to fit a gap, and so it creates challenges for sure.
Appreciate it.
Cap.
Lou, with all the stats at your disposal and analytics and all that, what one or two stats do you look at to tell you that your defense is doing what it needs to do, whether you got injuries or not? Is it just points or third downs or whatever?
Well, I think scoring defense, obviously would be at the top of the list. It always is. You certainly want to be good in different situations, the third down, red zone. But I think at the top of the list always is scoring defense because ultimately that's what impacts the game. So, I think where we're at with the youth and the secondary at certain positions and the newness, I don't want to say we're ever going to just allow yards, but some of that comes with growing pains. But as long as we're buckling down and not giving up points, I think that's what's it. I don't want to contradict myself and say, but anything I know somebody asked about bend but don't break earlier, but that's not how we think. We don't think that way. We think about being aggressive. We think about dictating. Sometimes the younger guys can cause some things that you're not ready for during a game. But our guys have been great. They're getting better each week. The Jonathan Edwards of the world, and um, we've brought Cam Mitchell in here, who's not a young guy, but has played. Mackay, all those guys are just getting better. And I think, all this stuff, all the reps these guys are getting are only going to be beneficial to us later in the season.
And a quick follow up on what Stephen mentioned about the tight ends, and you say you're at the point that maybe you're using safeties on them because of coverage, but then you're giving Tyler Warren, he's 6'5" and
Hmm.
255. You don't have safeties that big. So is that the matchup issues you have to deal with as size, speed, whatever?
Yeah, all that. I think, we went, you know, we had a run of some really, and he was here. Trey Flowers guarded a lot of tight ends for us during our Super Bowl run and AFC Championship games, and taller, longer corner. He's got good length that can run, and he doesn't necessarily have to be as big, but he can get, because he has long arms, he can get in there and knock the ball out. And guys like that have been good matchup people in the past, and we feel like we have some good guys here now to do that job as well.
Appreciate it.
Just a few more here. Joel.
What what sticks out about playing Aaron Rodgers?
So many things. His amazing arm talent is still there. It's amazing how he throws the ball, how fast he gets the ball out faster than any quarterback in the league. He is still unbelievably accurate. Can make every throw at any point on the field. Obviously, he can see all the things you're trying to do, whether it's a disguise or this or that. He's seen it all. So, anytime you're playing against a Hall of Fame player, especially at that position, it's going to bring, a ton of challenges. He's been a great player, is a great player. We have the utmost respect, obviously, for him.
And last question, James.
Lou, obviously, as you alluded to, your secondary has been banged up. But to that end, what have you learned about some of those young guys that you've had to put out there and the growth that they've had throughout this, whether it's Jonathan Edwards, Cam Mitchell, who you mentioned, Mekhi Blackman, who, I mean, we kind of gloss over, but it's like he didn't really have an opportunity like this before. So just your assessment of those guys.
Yeah, I'm excited about all those guys that you mentioned. I think I stated earlier that ultimately all the reps that those guys are getting now are going to pay dividends for us as we go through the season. And they're getting better, they're getting more confidence. I think the corner position is such a position where if you're out there and you're unsure and you're not confident, it's not going to work out well for you. So I think those guys are gaining those things. They're gaining confidence. They're gaining more knowledge of what we're trying to do at each call. And our Chris Hewitt and Jerome Henderson have done a phenomenal job with those guys. Kind of grooming them the way we want to get to where we're at right now. And hopefully we'll get Mooney back at some point here, and then we'll be that much better.
And one quick follow-up to that, what's the balance of like, when you have a whole offseason, you can like build guys into a system. What's it like when the season comes, you got a couple injuries, and it's like, all right, well, we got to learn, but also go out and perform, and you don't get like the little teacher. I can't stop a game and say, hey, you should have did this or that.
I mean, that's the NFL. I mean, I think we're all prepared. We're all veteran coaches. We've all been down this road. I'll share a story with you. I'll never forget. I was my first year coaching in the NFL. I'm at the Miami Dolphins. We claim a guy off waivers week 14. He's going to start. Something happened with his flight. The first time I met him was period 6 of team. He walked on the field. I put him in a huddle, and he played 65 plays on Sunday. So, it's just some of the things you deal with, and you just adapt and have to overcome it. And I think we're all ready for it. Nothing surprises me anymore. You just deal with the situations that are at hand, and you move forward. And that's the distractions that come with coaching in this league.
Which player was that?
Demetrius Patterson.
Gotcha. All right.